and welcome to Harriet Tubman's LSC regular virtual meeting for October 12, 2022. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for recording. The meeting is called to order at 6:03 p.m. We are going to establish quorum with our roll call. Mr. Hall,
Nick Hall, teacher rep.
Ms. Hulbert, Lori,
Lori Viets, parent rep.
Cynthia,
Cynthia Chernoff, parent rep. Excuse me.
Cindy,
Cindy Watola, parent rep.
Robert,
Robert Dagnew, community rep.
Ms. Brooks,
Sharice Brooks, paraprofessional.
Michael,
Michael Weinstock, parent rep.
Sarah, I think I saw her. Principal Gibson,
Kimberly Gibson, principal of Tubman.
I think I saw Sarah. I don't see her. Mr. Hall, did you see Sarah log in? Maybe if she lost connection, you haven't seen her?
No, she's not on the list.
No. Yes, Cindy?
Are we calling for our student representative?
I'll talk about that in a second. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't see Sarah, but we do have quorum for our meeting. Okay, before we go to the approval of the agenda, as point of orders, I want to mention two things. One is that we do have our student rep. She's formally elected. It's May McGannon. She's joining us tonight, but she's not officially a member of our council yet because we are still waiting for the certification of the Board of Education, which I am very hopeful that will be included in their next meeting, which is October 26th. And once we receive that, she will be formally included in our council. Yes, Ms. Ford?
Hi, thank you for recognizing me. I just wanted to confirm the information was sent to the board and it was included for this month's agenda. So the next meeting for the board is the 26th.
Okay, perfect.
So once they vote, she after the 26th, she'll be a full rights member.
Perfect. We're very excited. So May, thank you for that clarification, Ms. Ford, and for confirming that she is in the agenda.
Yeah, I got it on the board. I got it in. So you're all good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So May, we're very excited. Hopefully for our next meeting, you'll be an official part of our council as our student rep. But thank you for joining us tonight. So you get like in the loop of how we do this. So thank you. Having clarified that, the second thing I want to talk about as a point of order is that you will see in our agenda that now we have included in parentheses like a proposed time limit for all sections. I wanted to be clear that these time limits are not set in stone. Obviously, if we are discussing a matter that needs further discussion, we will do so. However, we want to maintain some type of order in our meetings. We can't allow another 4-hour meeting. It's a goal. So for the sake of everyone, more so because now we have our student rep and we want to respect the time of everyone, we're going to try to maintain within this time frame. Our sergeant at arms, which is Robert, our community rep, he will be in charge as part of his duties to make sure that we abide by those proposed times, and he will make reminders about how we're doing with time and follow the order we are establishing for our meetings. But again, to be very clear, if there's an issue that we have to discuss that requires a more thorough discussion, it will happen. But just for the sake of like maintaining an order and respecting everyone's time, we've included those proposed time slots for each part. Having clarified that, we now go to the approval of our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? So let's vote. Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Holbert. We can't hear you. Ms. Holbert. Okay. Lori,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
and it's a yes from me. I don't know if Sarah has joined us. I haven't seen her. Okay. Also, the agenda is approved. Our next point in the agenda is the approval of minutes from our last meeting. Any motion to approve the agenda, the minutes, sorry?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from the September 21st meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the minutes? Michael?
I don't think I received the minutes. Were they sent out before this meeting?
They were. Cindy, can you confirm that if you included Michael for the minutes?
I send them to you and Nick just to check them over. So I don't, before I
Okay.
greenlight them to everybody. So I apologize for that. That's kind of how I've done it in the
Okay.
past. I have not been the official sender. So I
Okay.
apologize for that, guys.
No, that's fine. So is there anyone else who did not receive, I guess, Rob? No one. Okay. So I am going to then motion to leave the approval of these minutes until our next meeting so our other members can evaluate them.
I will second the motion to defer approval of minutes till the next meeting.
Any discussion about that? So let's vote. Cynthia,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Holbert, Lori, Lori,
Yes.
thank you. Cindy,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
and it's a yes from me too. And my apologies for not checking this twice about who received the minutes. Moving forward, we will send them out to everyone. Cindy will send it out to everyone. Thank you. Our next point is the reports. So Principal Gibson, our principal report, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to present our State of School report. Purpose. The purpose of this report today is to share our school's strategic plan, to provide an update on our student data, and to provide background on our school's current programming for our students. Our mission. Our promise is to provide a nurturing and rigorous learning environment. We will instill within our students a love of learning by identifying their positive distinctions through academics, the arts, and athletics. We empower students to become responsible, contributing members of an international community. Our vision, as a result, Tubman students strive to be lifelong learners who are persistent problem solvers, are inquisitive about the world, have a strong sense of self, and articulate their thoughts, feelings, and ideas through ongoing reflection. Tubman students strive to be empathetic by understanding different perspectives while being mindful of their unique viewpoints. Tubman students strive to be caring and principled and to possess a foundation of knowledge that enables them to build a more peaceful world. Tubman School, be respectful, be responsible, be safe, BIB. Principal competencies. Competency A, champions teachers and staff excellence through continuous improvement to develop and achieve the vision of high expectations for all students. We do this during our grade level team meeting, our instructional leadership team, and our principal directed PD that was held on September 23rd, 2022. Principal competency B, creates powerful professional learning systems that guarantee learning for students. Grade level team meetings, and our school community meetings and agendas, such as our ILT and our HEART team. Principal competency C, leading a school culture and environment that successfully develops the full range of students' learning capacities, creative, social, emotional behavior, and physical. We have fall OST programs. For the first time, we have had our LSC student representative candidate poll that we held on September 21st, 2022. And as you heard earlier, our winner is May McGannon. Congratulations. And we have established a strong student voice committee, and you'll hear a little bit more about our members in the next few slides. We have also developed a Better Together school-wide book study scheduled for 65 employees, and it is facilitated by our very own counselor, Ms. Heather Beaker. Principal competency D, empowers and motivate families and the community to become engaged. We hosted a meet and greet for the staff and parents. We just conducted our Fun Run fundraiser. We communicate through our Tubman Bulldog Blast, and we also have 2 parents who are supporting us in improving their communication. We held the high school information session and sent out email about the test, weekly staff newsletters, monthly principal conversations, and our Tubman website. Principal competency E, relentlessly pursue self-disciplined thinking and action. Recently, with support from our network, Mindful Practice just held the mindfulness staff listening session on September 30th as we move toward continuous improvement here at Tubman. I have a weekly check-in with Chief Asaf and Deputy Chief Travalos. We have a retired principal partnership with Ms. Carey. I meet monthly with a coach, Dr. Linda Williams from NLU and CPS. And I also meet weekly with a diversity and equity and inclusion coach. And I recently just attended Courageous Principal Conversations at Deloitte University. Tubman at a glance. Well, to start our glance, we're going to start with our students. We have formed a strong Tubman Student Voice Committee. As you can see, we have 13 members. We had an exciting meeting with them today, I, Principal Carey, and AP Moore, and we are looking forward to meeting with them weekly. Some of the things we discussed is a possible masquerade, winter masquerade, and also improving things at Tubman. Tubman staff. Our educator team at Tubman includes 17 homeroom teachers, 6 wonderful specialist teachers, 10 learning behavior specialists, 10 special education classroom assistants. We have 1 pre-K kindergarten assistant, our wonderful clerk, 6 clinicians, 1 counselor, a 0.5 case manager, 0.5 English language proficiency teacher, 1 interventionist, 2 IB coordinators, PYP, MYP. We have 1 daily nurse, and we also have another nurse that's here during the certain days of the week. And we have 1 security officer. New educators to Tubman, we like to introduce Ms. Carey is our retired principal partner. Ms. Nueno is a diverse learner teacher. Ms. Manata is a diverse learner teacher. We welcome Ms. Seabrook as a diverse learner teacher, Mr. Tinich as a diverse learner teacher, Ms. Fleener, second grade teacher, Ms. Andriado, third grade teacher, Mr. Gillis, fourth grade teacher, Ms. Sutton, sixth grade teacher, and Ms. Lipo, seventh grade teacher. Ms. Lenore is our care room assistant. Tubman Heart Team members. These are considered the administrative heart team members. We have Kimberly Gibson, principal, Wanda Carey, retired principal partner, Bernadette Moore, our assistant principal, Frida Perillis, our PYP coordinator, Jennifer Vinson, our MYP coordinator, Ms. Mariah Brown, our interventionist, Rebecca Rosenberg, our case manager, and Ms. Heather Beaker, our school counselor. Tubman Instructional Leadership Team, or ILT. It's important for the ILT members to represent various grade levels in our school: principal, assistant principal. We have our interventionist, our PYP coordinator, our MYP coordinator, our English language proficiency teacher. We welcome Ms. Genevieve Cole, who is our kindergarten teacher representing early childhood, Mr. Lance Gillis, fourth grade, Eric Yang, Tiffany Sutton, Joanne Nueno, diverse learner teacher, and Rebecca Rosenberg, our case manager. And specials. Each grade level has one special class every day. Students will receive all their annual special minutes. K through 5 receives 2 quarters of dance and 2 quarters of drama. 6 and 7 receives 1.5 quarters of dance and 1.5 quarters of visual arts and 1 quarter of drama. 8th grade receives 1.5 quarter of dance and 2.5 quarters of visual arts. And our specialist is Ms. Jessica Jeffrey, Akimi Taguchi, Tiffany Moheiser, Joe Laughlin, Nicholas Hall, Jan, Miss C, Julius Oni. Tubman students. We are excited to announce our Tubman students come from 40 different zip codes throughout the city. They speak over 20 languages, and their families come from over 50 countries. Student enrollment. Our current enrollment as of October 11th is 295 students. This is something we are continuously working on to improve our enrollment. Some of our efforts include ongoing recruitment and enrollment. We have done a lot of preschool outreach. Many parents have stepped up and are offering the support to drop off our newly developed flyers in nearby preschool. And we want to shout out to our community. A special thanks to Michael and Charlotte for helping with the flyers. We are planning Go CPS parent session for our Tubman pre-K students so we can keep all 20 of our pre-K students, hopefully. We do have plans for Park West Nursery School Co-op School Grade Fair. We will be attending that on October 20th, and we will be taking 2 parents alongside us. I do have a meeting tomorrow with Alki Elementary principal to discuss coming in to speak at her school as well to the preschool families. And we are also partnering up with Audubon Elementary, which has 8 classrooms, to try to recruit students. Our goal is to recruit at least 30 students for our kindergarten program among the 500 students in various preschools in our network. Some other things that we have done, you may have seen updates to our website. We've updated the enrollment section, completed and added infographics to our homepage. We are promoting upcoming school tours, and we're asking our community to share our new flyers. And we've asked in our IB Bulldogs, and we're asking once again tonight, help spread the word of what a wonderful educational opportunity it is at Tubman. We're also highlighting our school activities and tours using Facebook, and we are appealing once again to our community if you can help promote our activities on your social media. Attendance matters. Every school and every day counts. Why does school attendance matter, you might ask? We partner together to ensure our students have a positive educational experience at Tubman. Research shows that attendance is one of the most important indicators of school success. Strong attendance correlates with academic success, while poor attendance correlates with academic struggles. Poor attendance creates significant learning gaps, and students have difficulty with juggling makeup work while also keeping up with current assignments. So we understand that students get sick, and if they are sick, we want you to keep them at home. But it's important for our kids to be here as much as possible, and we have a few reminders. Our overall school goal is 95%. Tubman current attendance rate is 94.36. Please help us reach our goal. Attendance per grade level. Today we pulled the data from August to yesterday, and our current attendance per grade level is as follows. Preschool is at 89.56%. K is at 92.81. First grade, woohoo, 97.43. Keep it up. 93.81 for our second grade. Third grade is 95.35. Fourth grade, 95.81. Fifth grade, 92.44%. Sixth grade, 94.57. Almost there. Seventh grade, 94.71. And our eighth grade, 94.62. Our current school, again, attendance overall is 94.36. And we will be having raffles again and raffling off gift cards for those who have perfect attendance. So please encourage your child to be in school every day. Absence procedures. Parents and guardians, please remember to call our front office if your child is going to be late. Please remember to give your child's name and room number, and or still email your classroom teacher as well. Please know all absences are recorded even for valid reasons, and tardies. Early dismissal counts towards the total number of absences. Students must bring a note from his or her parent or guardian on the day they return if the parents are unable to make a phone call. The note should state the cause of absence as well as the days the student was absent. Failing to provide this information will result in an unexcused absence until the letter is given. We appreciate your support in this matter. Budget. Earlier today, our LSC got a copy of the budget. Currently in our internal account balance, we have $216,704.52. What is going on in IB, International Baccalaureate? In our primary years program, we became fully authorized in January 2021 to offer the PY in grades pre-K through 5th. We emphasize inquiry-based learning, student agency, and opportunities for students to take meaningful action as a result of their learning. Emphasis on making local and global connections, Peace Corps Skype scientists, 5th grade pen pals, and we have community partnerships with We Organization, Facing History, and more to come. Yearly IB trainings. In August 2022, teachers attended IB training during week 0. All teachers attended training. Ongoing IB training to support implementation of the PYP for all teachers and administrators. Looking ahead, during extended planning sessions, teachers will be rewriting units of inquiry this school year, incorporating both math and additional subject areas to support transdisciplinary learning. Specialists will continue to integrate their subjects into grade level units. Ms. Barillas and Ms. Benson will be attending district coordinator meetings to ensure program implementation and to develop partnerships with other IB schools in Chicago Public Schools. International Baccalaureate, Middle Years Programming, or MYP, as you might hear often called. We have 2 6th grade, 2 7th grade, and 2 8th grade homeroom classes. IB work. All teachers are updating units weekly. Middle School Weekly Digest is sent home every Friday, and Tubman Specialist Highlights is shared weekly with families. Looking ahead, during extended planning sessions, teachers will be rewriting units of inquiry. Specialists will continue to integrate their subject into grade level units. And we do want to inform the community for MYP, this is an evaluation year. Student of the Month, monthly IB focus. IB learner profiles are as follows. For September, caring. October, balanced. November, communicator. December, principled. January, open-minded. February, knowledgeable. March, risk takers. April, inquirer. May, reflective, and June, thinker. Monthly counselor, case manager, IB report, and PPLC updates. Is our counselor, Ms. Beaker, on? I will read Ms. Beaker's updates for her. Go CPS, coordinating high school admission tests, continuing to work with 8th grade students on researching high schools, behavioral health team co-facilitator. She meets bi-weekly with the BHT team, and she's overseeing the implementation of our new BHT. Culture and climate co-facilitator, forming a committee. You're welcome, Heather, no problem. Second step coordinator, overseeing implementation. Calm Classroom co-facilitator, overseeing implementation. And Better Together, overseeing our school-wide implementation of this book study as we move forward together. Case manager update, Ms. Rosenberg.
Hello. All right. So we don't really have much to talk about more from last month. Just a reminder that our team days are on Tuesday, but sometimes we might have to hold them on other days depending on scheduling, especially with this month coming up. We've had some Tuesdays off, especially with Jewish holidays. So we've been sort of, flexible. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility with that. I am doing, there's monthly case managers meetings that I'm attending. I am the MTSS co-chair. And so we have been meeting with our network to talk about and help with branching minds. And that I'm helping plan monthly meetings with the other MTSS co-leader, interventionist Ms. Brown. I'm meeting with clinicians and on the BHT team. And then the last couple this week, and then leading up to the next week's, I'm going to be helping coordinate with Ms. Beaker for the high school admissions test that we're having on the 26th of October. And so those are the things that are happening with me this month. Thank you, guys.
Hello, everybody. For the IB report, it's both the MYP and the PYP. Our Bulldog Buddies is a monthly initiative to build relationships with each other. In September, Buddies came together to do the handprints, if you've been in the building on the first floor, that represent family backgrounds. October's is going to be a Unity Day where we're going to write things on ribbons and put them on the fence outside. So look for those next week. Both Miss Perillis and I worked with our teams after school the last 2 weeks to update unit plans, collaborate. The MYP specifically worked on getting things ready for the first part of our evaluation. Student council is getting ready for a pink out day next week, 2 weeks from now. Sorry. Everyone is encouraged to wear pink to celebrate those who have survived cancer and remember those who have not. And then our first MYP learning celebration is next week. There will be tons of points on the table and your child's house could win a big fabulous prize. And we're doing lots of really cool fun stuff with academic escape rooms. So yeah, it should be super fun. The specialists are going to do it. Like the whole building will be here, and our MYP or our IB support person will be in the building for that as well to see how it integrates with the programming.
So updates from our PPLC, the Professional Personnel Leadership Committee. On September 30th, and the certified staff members at Tubman were elected. This year's PPLC members. PPLC members hold a one-year term, and every September is a new election. Similar to the instructional leadership team, we do try to have a balance of representatives from all over the building. So you will see this year's members are Evokia Andreadu, one of our third grade teachers, Mariah Brown, our interventionist, myself as LSC representative and specialist, Emily Holbert, also LSC representative and first grade teacher, Ellen Lipo, our 7th grade language and literature and individuals and society teacher, Frida Perillis, our PYP coordinator, Rebecca Rosenberg, case manager and diverse learner teacher, and Carly Wallace, our first grade teacher. We have yet to schedule our first organizational meeting. That'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. As soon as we have a date set, I will update the LSC page. It's the PPLC section of the LSC page on the school's website.
Just weighing in on time. We had 25 minutes allotted to the full section. We're about 22 minutes in with, I believe, the Friends of Tubman report coming up.
Okay, good evening, everyone. The district benchmark screeners that Tubman will be using this year is iReady for mathematics and grades K through 2, and then the STAR 360 for grades 3 through 8, and that will be reading and math. I'm just going to share with you some of the data that we have from the beginning of the year assessment. Let's go back to the presentation so that you can see it. The iReady assessment, how this test works, it is an adaptive test, which means that the questions change based on the student's responses. And each student will see an individualized question based on their previous response. The purpose of this test is just to give students not just a score, but to help determine how we can best support them in their learning. The assessment is administered 3 times a year. BOY, MOY, and EOY. This is the data from the math assessment. And during our grade level teams, we will be taking a deep dive into what this data actually means. And a report will be sent home to parents, which will break down each level that where your students scored at, and it will give you an explanation on what that means. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to show the slides. I don't want to go too deep into the conversation right now. And this slide shows a breakdown per grade. So as you can see, the kindergarten that represents the green first is red, and the purple is second. And then the STAR 360, this is for grades 3 through 8. This is an adaptive assessment as well. And the students, pretty much the same concept. As they get the answers right, the test will get harder and it will eventually zero out at an achievement level for them. It is administered 3 times a year as well. And this is our data from the beginning of the year. And this is a breakdown per grade level. This is for reading. This is our mathematics data.
Upcoming professional development for staff. Staff this week is attending Chicago Leadership Group for professional development for literacy. Staff received Envision training on September 23rd, 2022. Also, upcoming Envision training is scheduled for K through 5 teachers October 18th, and Envision training is scheduled for our 6th through 8th grade teachers for 2 hours on October 19th. We also are in planning professional development for School Improvement Day, October 21st. And staff has weekly grade level team meetings for professional development. CIWP buckets of work, social emotional learning, student voice and engagement, multi-tiered systems of support, and curriculum is our focus for our third year on our CIWP. Thank you. Continue high quality academics, providing differentiated PD for teachers, intervention and enrichment blocks, student agency within teaching and learning, one-on-one meetings with teachers to review and revise units, planning for NYP evaluation and self-study process, reestablishing IB implementation in our ILT team, and MTSS team is working to ensure data-driven interventions are being implemented. SEL, we have a behavioral health team. We are engaging in second step and calm classroom school-wide, and we have school-wide Better Together for our adults. And we are addressing SEL with our morning meeting and our closing circle. Fall sports and after-school programs. For fall, we have flag football, co-ed, girls volleyball, winter boys and girls basketball, spring girls soccer, and all sports have 2 levels, 5th and 6th, and 7th and 8th. Community partnerships, Facing History, Chicago Museum, Chicago Symphony Orchestra, We Organization, Right at School, Northwestern Fuse Lab, Cubs Cares Charity, DePaul University, UIC, and Roosevelt. Additional support needed. We are looking for a miscellaneous office assistant, continuous support with recruitment and enrollment at Tubman, support with communications, and asking families to pay school fees. What's to come? Continuing to review and work on our CIWP priorities for SY23, analyze school-wide data, prioritize critical on grade level standards, and revising IB unit scopes accordingly. Differentiated PD for staff, OST interventions and enrichment programs, differentiated and small group instruction, and ongoing communication and partnerships with our family and members of our community. Middle School First Fun Friday team building activity. We just wanted to share a few highlights of some positive things going on at Tubman. Curriculum night was a success. Thank you to all the families who were able to join us. Thank you to all the staff. And our 16th annual fun run, thank you. Special shout out to our FOT. It was truly a good day for all of our staff members, students, and community and families. Questions and discussion.
Thank you, Principal Gibson. Michael?
I just had a question on the performance, the district performance data. Is there a way to get comparisons of those metrics to like pre-COVID years or just across the whole district to other schools to get a sense of, you know, how Tubman students compare to other schools or compare to other years?
So Start 360 is new to the district, so we didn't have Start 360, and this is our first year with iReady. But we could follow up with you in the email, Michael, with additional far as comparisons to other schools.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hall?
Thank you, Eliana. I just have a few questions. That was a lot of information. Thank you for sharing all of that, especially the data information. Student Voice Committee, are you able to elaborate on how those students were selected? Was that, did the students vote? Did the teachers decide? How was that? How were those students selected to that committee?
Sure, Mr. Howell. We went around to every classroom when we did the LSC candidate poll, and it was the same manner. Students filled out an interest form, and we just followed up. So any student who signed up was able to join. And we encouraged the students who were candidates for LSC to join Student Voice.
Thank you. The Envision PD, I'm glad to see, because I know we talked about that at the last meeting, that that has been scheduled. Is there, I know it's after school though, so is there a plan for teachers who are not able, either they're already teaching after school or they have prior commitments, to receive the PD they need to accurately teach the curriculum?
So, Mr. Howell, there's only 2 teachers who are teaching after school, and they are going to join the PD. But we also have options to have additional professional development for staff. So after they have this PD, they're going to share feedback on staff, additional questions or supports they need, and we will use funds to provide that professional and work with Envision to make sure that our staff has the professional development so they can fully implement Envision with fidelity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And 2 more questions, then I promise, Lori, your turn. Restorative justice, do we have a update on that position? I know last we heard the candidate was being onboarded.
Candidate still is in the process of being onboarded. We checked in on that today. There were some issues I'm not at liberty to discuss, but they are still working through the onboarding for the candidate.
Thank you for that update. And finally, I was expecting some information on the 5 Essentials survey. I know we brought that up last meeting, and we were told that was going to be shared with us in October.
So I don't recall it being brought up last meeting, but with the 5 Essentials, the information comes out at the end of October, so we can update at our next meeting. The information is shared publicly at the end of October. We are going to look at it as an ILT team, and we can also look at it in PPLC once you have a meeting date set up, and that way we can work as a team to present it to our community.
Okay, thank you. That I just feel especially since there's no SQRP this year from the district, and as this is a COWP year where we are writing the new school improvement plan, it makes it really hard to start planning for improvement when we don't have data that is readily available. I do know other schools have shared it with their staff, with their LSC, because the data does, I know it's not the final version, but it does come out usually mid-July. So that's, I'll be honest, a little bit frustrating, but I understand if we have to wait. Thank you.
Lori, before you comment, I want to recognize that our fellow member, Sarah, has joined us for the meeting. Thank you, Sarah. Lori?
Hi, Sarah. Okay, just have a few. Of course I do. First off, thank you. That was a lot of information. I also had a question about the restorative practices thing and the onboarding. And I think that is such a really important position, especially with the state of our school. And I know we have lots of CPS people on board, and I'm wondering if any of you have the power to help move that along faster. We would greatly appreciate that. Hi, I see you all. Number 2, how many staff members were able to attend the September listening session? Do we know how many?
Lori, I don't have that information. I was not in the building at that time. I was at a professional development conference, so I don't have that information.
Who did that? I'm sorry, then who did the staff listening if it wasn't you? I'm just curious and who was leading that.
I shared it was done through mindfulness practice.
Oh, okay. So
and it was in partnership. It was not me. No, not this one.
Okay. Then I'm going to call out perfect attendance. Perfect attendance is by many standards considered ableist. It is rewarding kids for coming to school under all sorts of conditions that might not be great. I understand that CPS values it, and I understand from an educational standpoint about the value of having kids attending school. But by rewarding and encouraging perfect attendance, it is considered ableist. Also, CPS itself allows kids to take 5 mental health days a year. So if a child was to take their 5 mental health days, would that count against them for a perfect attendance award? I bet it does, because that's not perfect attendance. So as part of Tubman Inclusive Education Supporters, I strongly say that we need to reevaluate that. Along those lines, I know for the new members, we went through this a little bit offline, which we can't do. Sometimes after these things, it's where like an LSC member might bring some up. So if you saw me, I took a picture of the PPLC team, not just because you're all cute. I wanted to have, maybe that would be the place, because we do have a habit, and I'm on the diversity committee, I'm on Tubman Inclusive Education Supporters, and there are forms that come out from our school. These are not CPS forms. These are not the ones that you will find on CPS. I've compared to other schools. We do sometimes send out forms that are problematic. So maybe it's that we attend the PPLC and talk about, because I'm not sure where these forms come from. We have talked about it over the years. Principal Gibson, you inherited many of these forms. The family language form that came along long before you, and I know we've talked about it in LSC meetings before. If you take a look at that, it's a little intrusive, and for some people, it's problematic. What is your parent or guardian's birthplace? What is the ethnic background of your family? What holidays do you celebrate? There's just a lot in there, and we've brought this up at TIES. We've brought this up at the diversity committee, and I think that it's time that we take a look at what is that information and how is it actually used. Most schools send out the what language do you speak, so we know how to communicate with you, but this asks for a lot more personal information. Our dance forms.
Excuse me, Lori, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for the sake of time, maybe we could put that as an action item for our next meeting, or to discuss it, as you said, proposed in the PPLC.
Yeah, I did ask for it to be on this agenda as well. So I want to make sure that these are important conversations, and I really value our time too. But a lot of parents have reached out to me about all of the forms that we're sending out, and it's already October, and we keep pushing these things back. So I will agree to stand down on it this time, but I definitely want it as an agenda topic, because I believe that parents have requested, and as a parent rep, that is part of my job, to bring up concerns that parents have addressed to me. So
Cindy, I would ask for you to please put that as an action item for our next agenda. Thank you, Lori.
okey-doke.
Sarah?
Good evening, everyone, and apologies for my tardiness. To extend the conversation that was initiated by Mike, in addition, in the past, we have had some comparison data shared during LSC meetings about, student performance. That has been helpful, and it's been done in comparing the school with other schools, and it's been publicly shared. So if that can be made available, that'd be great, as well as sharing that data on a differentiated level. So it's great to see how it's happening, where the performance stands within the grades, but then also how does that break down at other levels, because it does inform how we can support and lean in the LSC and the various committees that we have, and then how we can leverage other opportunities in that way too. And it's just really helpful to have that data. So I would second the sharing of data, if we can get that compared across schools, in the area, and then also if we can get a little bit more differentiated, that'd be great. And my other question was just wanting to get some more. I know there was the community partnerships list. It's more extensive than it was last year. So if there's any insights that you could share, Principal Gibson, on some of those community partnerships. Cubs, we have a sense of those partnerships, but be great to kind of get a little bit more idea about some of the other partnerships that you identified there. Thank you.
Robert?
Thank you. Wanted to say, just appreciate like the breadth of things that are going on in the school, and like the totality of like all these initiatives and those sorts of things. Super helpful. Also want to +1 that data, like appreciate, like as a data sort of nerd, that like I love seeing those sorts of things. And then what I'm excited about is, I know, right, the middle of the year assessment, we can get a sense of sort of what has sort of changed. The other point that I'll make that I'm sure you're already thinking about is, I know that with those assessments, you get sort of classroom level or student level data about certain objectives. And I think what's really helpful is to go from that at a high level of what you've shared with us to like actual action, right? Like what actions are you going to take as a result of those data? What are the sorts of objectives or learning needs of different classrooms of kids? And how are you going to sort of take action to address those needs based on the information you just had? And sort of pulling on this data thread a little bit more, I think the thing that I want to be excited or will be excited to see is like a little bit about outcomes, right? Love that there's that book study. And my question back is like, how will you know if your book study is successful? Like, what are you expecting to see as a result of that? Similarly, like second step, great curriculum. How will you know if second step is achieving the intended impact in the school? Like, what are those sorts of measures look like? And I know it's tied in some ways to the school improvement plan, a lot of those sorts of things, but eager to go to sort of get a sense of, I know that we're doing great things, and I want to sort of be able to sit back and say, and these things have been successful because this is what we said the sort of outcome was expected to be, and here's the data that supports that. So just another plug to be, continuing to be data driven as a school to be able to measure the success of the various things that we have going on. Thank you.
Cindy?
I was just thinking about, just as we're going through this discussion, and maybe I can save it to the end for action items, but did we want to add, you wanted to add for like the forms, and then an action item, do we want to add, like, we want the 5 essentials data as an action item on that list as well? Okay. PD.
Yes, please.
Okay, PD for Envision. I know that it's scheduled, but it sounds like we need more. Is that something, or no, Nick? What do you think?
Let's see how next week's PD goes, I would say. I can get feedback from the
Okay.
staff, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Principal Gibson, I have a very quick question about the attendance too. Like, is there any guidance regarding like students who miss school because of religious holidays or observances? And also, is there a specific guidance about the point that Lori made about the mental health days and how that will be considered in those proposed raffles? Because I think that's something that is related to the equity we're always like promoting and talking about. So I don't know if there's specific guidance of the religious aspect or and or those mental health days.
So for the religious aspect, when parents call and say students are out for religious, that's excused. I heard Lori and I heard you, and I'm taking that into consideration of our mental health days when how we select our monthly student raffle winners. And so we're moving toward continuous improvement, and I'll consider that feedback. And I appreciate you both for bringing that up.
Thank you. Before we move on, I don't know if Patty is with us for the brief FOT report, because I don't want it to go unnoticed.
Hey, I'm here. I'm just in the car. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, just coming back from the Tubman Bulldogs football game. Really, the only thing I have right now is the fun run. As you know, Principal Gibson mentioned it in her principal report, went very well. And the fundraiser raised $48,000 for the school. So that's great, just shy of our goal of 50,000, but I'm pretty impressed considering the goal was made before we realized how many students, what our attendance and what our amount of students were in the building. So we're a lot less students than last year, and we still managed to pull it off. So I'm very impressed, and I'm very grateful to all of our donors, community members, family members, anybody that donated. I'm very grateful for that. That's pretty much it, really, for my specific report.
Thank you, Patty. So moving on, it's the review and vote on budget and requested transfer. Principal Gibson.
Yes, earlier I sent you a request, and I'm advocating on behalf of our staff, 2 of our staff members, as well as the district suggested that they attend this professional development in Los Angeles to get the Category 3 IB training. And this is an MYP evaluation year. So I'm advocating for Miss Jennifer Vincent and Michelle McNally so they can attend this important professional development. And you guys have an estimated cost for both to attend. It comes out to $2,437.81. And I just wanted to bring that to the council for discussion or possible vote tonight.
Robert?
Thank you. What fund would be used? I've got a couple questions. So first is like, what fund would be used to pay for these costs?
Thank you. So the district allocates IB funds. So these would be used through the IB funds, but because it's over $1,000, I need to get LSC approval. But it's funds allocated through the district.
So like it would be separate from the report that you all like that you shared with us before the meeting. So I'm just trying to get up to speed on this. Or is that like a line item that has like IB funds there? Like, could I see how much of this of the total is really the root of my question?
Yeah.
And then the second question is like, is this more of a these two individuals sort of go, it's for their own personal benefit, or like, do we expect them to sort of go and then be able to sort of provide like what they share with the rest of the school? Like, how are they going to sort of apply what is learned from this particular trip? Like, what does that look like in addition to the first bit?
So our IB coordinator, she is one of the people going, and Michelle used to be our IB coordinator. This is going to help support our MYP evaluation. We are in an evaluation year, and they're going to bring it back to the team. So they always bring what they learn and then train other staff members and bring back professional development.
Any other question related? Mr. Hall?
So I just wanted to clarify to follow up with Rob's question, Principal Gibson. It is coming out of the IB money, the funds they give us every year, not out of anything in internal accounts, right?
It's out of the IB programming funds.
Can I add one thing? Or am I
Yeah.
not allowed to talk?
Well, you have to ask the chair to be recognized.
Can I speak, Ileana? Okay. I'm
We're
so
going to
sorry.
allow it so if you can share
Yep.
more information for the sake of this discussion. Thank
Sure.
you.
So it is a targeted workshop for the weekend based on the program evaluation process. And Michelle McNally is the one who brought us through candidacy and implementation and gaining the process. And she has been crucial in bringing me up to speed and continues to work with me and Frida on this, and has been like, I couldn't do my job without her. So that's why we're both going. And it's a national conference over the weekend in LA.
Thank you, Ms. Vincent.
There's
Any
also
other-
the fun. There was a second part to an email that I think got lost. I think the grand total is a little bit higher than 24. That was for hotels and airfare. There's also program registration that's $750 a piece. So I think it's closer to. I'm not the math teacher, so I apologize, but I think it might be closer to
39.
4,000, I think is what it is.
And do you get per diem as well?
No, we don't. The conference covers breakfast and lunch, and then we're on our own for dinner. Those are district. That's what we learned from the IB support people downtown.
Doesn't seem right, but
Thank you, Ms. Vincent. Ms. Gibson. Oh, yeah.
So based off that additional information I didn't have, I would like to change the request to $4,000. What I sent you didn't have the cost of the conference, is what I'm understanding from Ms. Vincent.
I would like to see and confirm what the registration cost is, so we could have like the correct total and the correct amount we would be approving or not. So I don't recall what's the date of this, so I don't know in terms of time sensitiveness how we are. But for the sake of an approval and a thorough discussion, I would need the right amount, like the correct and final number that would be voted on. Mr. Hall?
So I agree. I would like the correct number. I do worry if we defer it. I'm not sure for Michelle and Jennifer and Jenny, like, it might already be booked, like if we don't do it now. And I think, so I would be up for approving it on condition we receive, the correct amount, like, and that it's listed in the minutes and that we all receive the correct amount. But I agree, I would like the exact amount and not just an approximation.
I'm looking for it right now.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. That's yeah, that can be done. My concern is more than like we need to know what specifically we're approving, but if it's almost 4,000 or 4,000, then we could vote on that. And if there's any amendment we have to do, then we'll determine it. But of course, we don't want them to miss that opportunity because it's beneficial for our school. Sarah?
I just wanted clarity. It's for, is it for MYP specifically? It doesn't include PYP? Just want that point of clarity.
Right now it is just Michelle and myself, because we're in the evaluation process. We're a year and a half into authorization, and the process is every 5 years for evaluation. So in another 2.5 or 3 years, if Frida would like to go, we can send her. It doesn't make sense right now. And we asked her if she wanted to go, and she didn't think that it made sense for her to go at this point. And I actually have the total. Can I read it, or am I out of order? I don't want to do anything wrong.
Or if it's been said, yes, we are discussing this, so please.
Okay, so it is $3,925.81 is what the estimate is.
And
that
this per
includes,
person.
no, that's all in. So
that's all.
Yep, that's hotels for both Mrs. McNally and I, because the district wants us to have different rooms. It's airfare, and then it is the 2 registrations.
Will you repeat the number one more time, please?
Sure. It is $3,925.81.
Thank you, Ms. Vincent. So with that information, Principal Gibson, do you want to present your new motion to the floor, please?
Sure. I propose a motion that we approve $3,925.81 for professional development for Jennifer Vincent and Michelle McNally to attend the conference in LA in January.
I second.
Any further discussion? So we vote. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hulbert? She voted yes at the chat. She's having mic issues. Lori?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Principal Gibson?
Yes.
And it's a yes for me, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the information, Ms. Vincent and Principal Gibson.
Thank you all so much.
Mr. Hall?
So I had another question about the budget, and I think this would be where I would ask it, right? About the internal accounts we received. I just wanted clarification.
Yes.
Okay. The Cubs line, I'm noticing it looks like we still haven't received the Cubs money. And I just wanted an update on that. That usually gets to us in May. And I know we had counted on it originally for when we budgeted for this year. And I do not see any money in that line. could I have clarification, please?
So I can follow up and see if the money has been received with Ms. Warden and get back to you guys on that. So I don't know that if the money came in as of yet.
Okay, sorry for my confused look. I guess from the report we just got today, it's not in there.
Correct. So I'll follow up with Ms. Warden and get back to you on that, Mr. Howe. Get back to the entire council on that.
Thank you, Michael.
I had a question on the restorative justice position. I understood that it is not funded through the school; it's funded through um, some other way. I wanted to understand what line item the funds are coming from, and if that is anticipated to continue into the future, like next year.
So it's funded through our friends of Tubman. The line number is 28150, and the money is sitting there. How it goes, Michael, is we get a bill from CPS, usually around January or March, and that's when the funds for that salary has to be paid. As for the future, we haven't voted on how we will continue to fund that position. We have to vote on budget every year.
Okay, great. And sorry, do we know what the amount is or an estimate of the amount for that position?
We don't know an estimate amount till the person is hired, and it's based off their education and a couple of other items. So we don't know the exact amount.
Okay, thank you.
Lori?
Just a small thing. When can we change things to not say Agassiz anymore in the budget? Like everything still says Friends of Agassiz and CPS. Hi, there's still a lot of Agassiz stuff out there in the CPS world. What can we do to properly name things in our budget?
So this was already named. I can reach out to the bank and see if we can get it switched over. This was prior to me coming on. And stuff with the district, if we see like communication and they have it under Agassiz, we request right away that they change it to Tubman. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sarah?
You're muted, Sarah. We can't hear you.
Sorry, thanks. I noticed that we have funding in there from Lowe's. And I know we were back in the day, we were going after the Lowe's grant, and it was there to support some of the development for the playground. And I'm familiar with the Lowe's Toolbox grant, and part of that grant is to do in partnership with family and communities. So I just want to get context for that Lowe's line item. Is that indeed we are recipients of that grant, and is that, I know there is a timeline in which we have to use those funds. Could I just get some more context from that Lowe's line item? Thanks.
So there's not a timeline for our internal accounts on this money, but that money was here prior to us coming. And when we went through the audit last year, the auditors are trying to see how that grant is to be spent. You only can spend money of how the grantor says it could be spent. And we could not find documentation on it. We still have it. The only thing we can do is vote as a LSC to reallocate those funds to be spent in a specific way.
If it is through the Lowe's grant, I can definitely send you those specifications, and I know you can reach out to those folks to see what the status of that is before those funds are reallocated. I would strongly encourage us to do our due diligence and follow up with the Lowe's Foundation to ensure that we're using that money in accordance to how we were awarded that money.
Thank you.
Ms. Holbert? Ms. Holbert, we can't hear you. Ms. Holbert has problems with her mic, so she's typing in our chat that her question is about the budget line item class fees. Every class says 0. Ms. Gibson, can you please address what happened with class fees this year?
So Emily, you weren't at work when you were off on maternity leave. Every classroom was able to spend that funds. We had got that approved by LSC, and teachers ordered materials for the classroom.
No, for this year though, what is the plan?
The plan for this year is if teachers have collected it. I'm not sure if teachers are requesting it. I do know that all supplies were bought prior to the end of the school year. Every year in years past, we collected school fees. We are still collecting school. Are you talking about school fees or class fees? I'm kind of confused. You said school fees. Do you mean class fees? Yes. So have you reached out to your parents to collect the class fees? Because in my announcement, we had school fees and we constantly put it in the IB blast. Have you been sending in your newsletters? I'm not sure how you guys did it in past years, and I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
She's saying that every year in years past, we collected school fees and class fees, and that her question is regarding both the school fees and the class fees. And that she will address you later. Thanks. Thank you, Ms. Holbert.
Thank you, Ms. Holbert. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Moving on to items 7, discussion and vote to reestablish committees. These are the committees our LSC currently has, but since we are considered like a new LSC, we have to vote to discuss and vote to reestablish them. So those committees will be communication and engagement, equity, and the Tubman inclusive education supporters, the ties committee. So I motion to approve the communication and engagement committee.
A second.
Any discussion? Mr. Hall?
So I'm looking at that committee, and I see like the 3 committees we have, and then I also see item 8. We have quite a few committees we're thinking of adding, and I was just wondering about consolidation of these committees. So like communication committee, if we keep that going, and would that be also the recruitment and enrollment committee? To me, those make sense together. And then my proposal would be, like when we get to the next vote, we have an equity committee, we have the ties inclusion committee, we're talking about an LGBTQIA committee. To me, that is a DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion committee. That could be one committee instead of 3 separate committees. That would be just my thoughts. So I am for a communication committee and continuing the work that has been started. I'm thinking we might want to look at all the committees we're thinking of creating and consolidate.
Cindy?
Yeah, we talked about that at our meeting a couple weeks ago about is the communication and engagement committee too broad in the things that we're trying to accomplish, especially when it comes to right now, the recruitment and marketing of the school, plus really needing to engage our community. Really, what I think when we formed the committees last year and the year before, we're trying to get the broadest base reach of our school community so we can create a really great survey. And that's really top on the list right now. So we could still keep the communication engagement committee and under that umbrella, still really focus on recruitment. But we also have, some other pretty major focus coming into, we have to get these surveys out. We have to be able to have something to evaluate with. So I don't know if it's too broad or if it should just, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Thank you, Cindy. Lori?
To the topic of combining the other three that you mentioned, diversity, ties, and hopefully our new LGBTQIA. Really, there's so much work to be done. And some of those ways you're going to see they all come together, and they all come together in so many important ways, but they're all three so valuable. And when you try to combine too many things, I feel like we're not able to focus on and really doing the work and making progress. I also think it sends really strong messages to our community, what we value. And by breaking those three up into three separate entities and then coming together when needed. Sorry, my children are very loud in the background. Sorry, I'm liking camera. By focusing, it sends a message of who we are as a community and what is valuable. I don't think it takes anything away from anything on the LSC to have those as three separate entities. Just makes three more quick updates at a meeting.
Before I call on our other members, I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I am also worried about like having 9-10 committees. I do believe there's some committees that given our particular circumstances right now have to be or should be there, should be separate, obviously open for discussion. However, as you all know, our bylaws state that we can establish committees that we understand deemed necessary or convenient for the handling of our school and our LSC, and that those committees can also have subcommittees. So I don't know if a way we could do that is like maybe the equity committee has also those subcommittees, although I do understand your point, Lori, about all the work that has to be done and the message it can send. We also have to remember that these committees have to be chaired by one of our council members. So and that is like I don't want to say additional work because I don't like it to seem as like a load, but it is additional work to whoever wants to chair those committees if they are eventually voted to create. Um, so that's something that I think we should all consider. Also, at establishing committees, the important thing is like what is our goal with this committee and how are we going to get results from this committee? Because it can't be creating a committee for the sake of having a committee. Like, what are our goals for the committee? How are we going to measure the results? How are we going to see the results? What are the results we want from this new committee or by consolidating committees? So it's something that I wanted to bring into discussion because again, I'm up for creating and giving more voice and spaces for all the issues that we deal with in our school. But also, we want to see the results. We want to see like concrete actions and plans that turn into results out of those committees. So I bring that up to discussion. And now, Robert.
Am I actually next in the queue?
Oh, well, I see Miss Holbert. Yeah, Miss Holbert. Sorry. Thank you, Robert.
Can you hear me now? Am I upside down? No, this is on my phone. I'm having so many tech issues. My husband's bringing me his computer. In any case, I was just wondering because after I spoke about the class fees, I'm sorry to go back, but I didn't have a mic, so I think this is valid. I got inundated with messages from teachers that there's like a lot of confusion and clarity and needed on that topic. So for the sake of time, can we maybe add something like on the next agenda, or should that stay like PPLC, Nick, or I don't know, but class fees, I think it relates to this in terms of like what we did in the past and parents.
Yes, you guys can meet with me. You're welcome to meet with me and just
I see in the
might
budget
resolve it much sooner.
Okay, yeah. But Ms. Holbert, I agree. Cindy, if you can please add it as an action item. And I think that teachers or staff or representatives can meet with Principal Gibson, and then we can report on that because I know parents are also asking. So
Yeah.
it would be good to see an outcome before our next meeting. So thank
Yeah.
you both for
Thank you.
talking about this.
Thank you.
I see Principal Gibson.
Hi, Ileana, can you share with the council, or I can share? We first have to establish committees technically. You know, we weren't supposed to have any committee meetings as of yet because we haven't established them as a council. So it's really important that we establish these important committees. We just weren't able to do this in July at the organizational meeting because we didn't have a chair.
Yeah, that's why the first three that existed before are the ones that we have to reestablish. But Mr. Hall brought, I guess for the sake of time, the discussion of like, we're also going to discuss the creation of the other ones. So, but yeah, you're right, Principal Gibson. Before we decide if we consolidate or not, we have to vote on getting these committees reestablished in our LSC. So again, my motion is to create or reestablish the Communication and Engagement Committee.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Robert?
Mine's more like I'm sort of thinking of all of these things together in some ways. But I want to name, like, initially I was coming into this where like I had the same sorts of concerns about like the breadth or the number of committees. Like Laura, your point is very salient to me about like these committees demonstrate our values. So like I appreciate that. My concern comes down to the like each committee needs to be chaired by an LSC member. And like, do we have the bandwidth to be able to support every single one of these or not? And it's like, if we're saying as an LSC, yes, we've got interest in every single one of these committees, like a person that's really interested in that to sort of shepherd this stuff forward, like I could be completely open to that. But it's like, I worry about sort of spreading ourselves thin of like, we've got sort of multiple meetings, multiple chairs, those sorts of things. But I think like if that concern can be allayed, or if someone could speak to that, that would be sort of useful information to me as I think about this.
Lori?
Yeah, I totally get that. So just so you know, because I know you're new, like we didn't have a problem getting LSC people to do the work. And for me personally, the whole reason, because you know this isn't as much fun as it used to be, is the committees. That is where the work is really done. This is a lot of, but the real work has been done. And I loved, we had a really strong, and sometimes we have to be careful because of OMA, like how many LSC people are on, but we've always had an LSC with a lot of people who want to do the work, who don't just show up to these meetings. So I'm hoping that Sarah wants to continue on with our diversity meet, which was our previous chair was on there, Sarah Oghetto, Cindy Watola, and myself. So we had 4 LSC members at all of those meetings. Yeah, I do a lot of committees. I'm your ties person. I'm happy to be your LSC rep for the LGBTQ, unless somebody else on the LSC wants to take on a chair position. The committee work to me is the most important work, and it's the whole point of being, for me, the whole point of being on the LSC. So at least for the next year, those are groups that I'm happy to do extra meetings and extra work. And I haven't been doing, sorry, Cindy, I don't want to do communications anymore, but I'm happy to do the other ones. So yeah, I think we do have the bandwidth, and we are getting more parents involved in doing the extra work. But as far as having an LSC person willing to be at those meetings and come to these meetings and say, this is what we did, I'm happy to do whatever needs to support those groups, except budget. I don't want to.
Thank you, Lori. So, okay, again, we're going back to discussing like the other committees. Again, my motion is to approve, to reestablish the Communication and Engagement Committee.
Yes, I
You
second that. Where am I at?
It's been moved and seconded twice. So let's vote.
Okay, let's vote. No further discussion. Okay. Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Hulbert,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
and a yes for me. So we have reestablished the Communication and Engagement Committee as part of our LSC. I motion to reestablish the Equity Committee.
I second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Hulbert,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
and it's a yes for me. So we have reestablished our equity committee on our LSC. I motion to reestablish our Tubman Inclusive Education Supporters Committee.
I second.
Guys, any further discussion? We vote. Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Hulbert,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Cynthia. Cynthia?
Sorry, wrong button. Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Principal Gibson,
Yes.
and it's a yes for me. So our ties committee is also reestablished. Having done that, now we go to point 8, the discussion of creation of new committees, which we have started to discuss. There are 5 proposed new committees. The first one being the Continuous Improvement Work Plan Committee, the CIWP. This is a CIWP writing year. So I am proposing to create a CIWP committee. So I motion to create the CIWP committee.
And just for point of clarity, you know what? Let me raise my hand.
Ms. Gibson?
According to the agenda, we can discuss it, but we're not voting on it this week. We were supposed to vote on it next session.
Yeah, you're right. Well, we can discuss it. Any discussion about the Continuous Improvement Work Plan Committee?
I wonder if this is needs to be identified as a separate committee. Is this something that is a part of the procedure and protocol as per the LSC manual that, you know, there is a CIWP committee that is created in the development of the CIWP?
You're right, Sarah, but the purpose, like, and this was, I am proposing this just to have like a working group. I don't know what happened. So is Sarah here? Sarah, getting back to you. It is part of our responsibilities as a council. I don't know if Sarah's here. I'll just say it. But I wanted to put it as a working committee, just because we're gonna have to review our current one, see the results, and like be more specific on what we're gonna do for our next one. So I thought that it would be a good idea to like have a specific committee, even though we all have the responsibility in the end regarding the CIWP. Michael?
I just want to say I support the creation of this committee. Having looked at the current CIWP, there were things that I thought were lacking, and getting some initial feedback from teachers. I heard about things that were implemented that they didn't particularly like, and I saw that the driver of that was the CIWP. So I'd like some time to be spent on evaluating how to make improvements next time.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah, so I was wondering, since this is just a discussion, even, I guess for me is what, I guess some of them I understand, but what is the goal of these new meetings? I know Rob brought up, or Michael, I can't remember, sorry, brought up about like, if we're creating committees, what is the goal? So obviously I know the goal of the ones we've um, approved, because from last year. Um,
Well, I can speak to why I'm proposing the CIWP committee again,
and
because
and sorry, Leah, I guess that's the one I'm the most or not like have questions about, because like as Sarah said, typically, as part of the process, the principal has to include LSE members in the writing of the CIWP. That's per CPS. So what would creating would that just be the committee? I guess, yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
no, I completely understand. And I don't want it to be seen as a dual thing, or because obviously those people that are in the committee, which can be all of us if we want, um, we are supposed, as you said, according to the guidance, are going to be included in the principle of writing and everything. But I think that, as Michael mentioned, like there's things we have to look very in detail, and that we need to be prepared once we are invited to the formal writing table. Things that we go already talked, already discussed. So we can go to that writing table well prepared with concerns, comments, suggestions, constructive criticism, whatever, positive feedback, results that we need more information about. And I know that can also happen at the writing table, but it's going to be a lot. So I think we should make sure that we go there with all the information and all the with the most information to be active participants in that writing table. That's, I mean, again, this is a discussion. It's that's why I am proposing it. But yes, we're all going to be part. Like LSC is part of that, of the formal process. It's not going to be like, and it has to align. But I wanted to be like us as an LSC to all go as a team, all align before to that writing table. I don't know if it makes any sense, because it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of points that have to be discussed and a lot of things that have to be evaluated from our current CIWP. Rob?
Thank you. Like, love that question, Sarah and Nick. Like, that's exactly what's on my mind too. Like, it doesn't, I wouldn't want to run like dual processes, right, that are divorced from each other, right? So to what extent does this committee sort of inform that other work, or to what extent is that's aligned? And what I heard from you, Eliana, is like those things could work in close concert with each other, or if not, like have tremendous overlap. I think the thing that I'm seeking that would be useful in advance of that writing process is sort of what you've mentioned, Ileana. Like, where are we right now in our school improvement plan? Like, what do we say we're going to do? Have we done those sorts of things? What's the data say? Like, what are our outcomes? Like, that's a set of information that I would love as an LSC member to sort of understand, like where we are as a school and a school community against sort of the things that we said that we did. And would love this potentially as a committee that informs that writing process, but could speak to in our upcoming meetings, like here's where we are, those sorts of things. And it would just be important to me to, no matter what, work in close alignment with whatever that team is, the actual school writing team, knowing that we're in that right year, so that it's not duplicative, it's not redundant, but it's all in support of those sorts of things. But I think this would solve some questions that I have in the near term about data, progress, metrics, those sorts of things.
That's precisely like you said what my mind was trying to say. Like, there's a lot of information that we have to get, a lot of information that has to be analyzed for us to be able to come with strong suggestions as partners in writing that CIWP. So I think that there's work to be done before we go in there. So, because it's a lot. Michael? You're muted, Michael.
Sorry. If could you elaborate on the timeline if we vote to create this committee in, I think our next meeting's beginning of December, how much time is there between then and the writing committee being formed for the CIWP?
So maybe Mr. Hall can elaborate more on that timeline, because we've been going back and forth of what's going to be needed at what time. So, Mr. Hall, about
So
when, like, for the CIWP.
CAWP, I would let Principal Gibson answer because I know CPS changes it every year. It's
Yeah,
usually
that's
spring, but I would, yeah.
But Michael, you know what? For the sake of time, we can get back. We can ask Principal Gibson about this and get back, because we're not voting to create it today. It's just a discussion. So if
Yeah,
you're okay
perfect.
with that, we
Thanks.
can reach out. And the second new committee is the Principal Evaluation Committee. It's more, it's similar to the mindset of the CIWP. There's CPS is also changing things regarding principal evaluation for this year. So there's new things to consider. So I think it's an important part of what's going to happen. And again, it's part of our duties as LSC members, but it's more or less the same train of thought about this of the CIWP. Yes, Sarah?
And I just want to highlight that it's not necessarily new, right? But I do appreciate that we're having, just like the CIWP, these conversations now, and we're organizing towards this work now, as opposed to, you know, when the rubber hits the road and we're trying to figure things out last minute. So I just want to stress that it's not necessarily new, just like the CIWP work, but it's great that we're having these conversations now.
Mr. Hall?
So with principal evaluation, there is, I was in communication with LSC Relations today, because there are new things coming out, but there are still things that we have to do the quote unquote old way. So the November 1st deadline is still there, as far as we do as an LSC have to finalize Principal Gibson's rating from last year. So last year we did the professional practice, and now we do the summative, which usually would be the SQRP. That is not provided this year, but we do have the opportunity to include additional data. That has to be agreed upon by Principal Gibson and the LSC, and voted on before November 1st. And then the purpose of the Principal Evaluation Committee would also be, in conjunction with the Communications Committee, getting surveys ready for next year's evaluation. And I found out today from LSC Relations, I think there was miscommunication last year, that surveys to the community are not considered to be additional factors. And so they do not have to be approved by the November 1st deadline. Those can be created at a later date, and then they do have to go through CPS legal, but they are part of the professional practice process. Those are not additional factors. So less of a emergency or timeline on that, just putting things out there.
Sarah?
Sorry, that was my hand raised from prior.
So that's on Principal Evaluation Committee. Any other discussion about that one? Okay, so the next one is the Budget Committee. This has been, we've talked about this before, a one-on-one with members, just to have a committee that is dedicated to interpreting, analyzing, and everything on those budget lines to make it easier for our community to understand on these meetings, and for us as an LSC to understand on these meetings. I don't know if Robert or Michael want to talk more about this budget committee. Michael?
Yeah, I just want to say I support the creation of this committee. I think it would be helpful to have a group that could put together summary information on the budget. And then, you know, as we talked about today, it sounded like there's some questions and things
that need more clarification that this committee could focus on.
Rob?
Just want to say, nailed that, Michael. Thank you. Like, would love to sort of be a member of this. It sort of is my jam to some extent, and happy to sort of take at these things, translate those reports into sort of meaning making and those sorts of things, to sort of let the community sort of have confidence in sort of what's going on and those sorts of things. And also sort of eager to sort of lend any assistance I have around like projections, all that jazz, just to sort of make sure that we've got, you know, great fiscal sorts of things in place. So totally into this.
Thank you, Rob. So the next committee would be the LGBTQIA. It's a new proposed committee by, it was shared with us with our fellow member, Lori. If you want to talk more about this, please.
Thank you. This was something that we had talked about in diversity and equity last year. And then this year, it just didn't have a lot of parents, like we didn't know how to get people involved. This year, several parents, approached me and are very excited. So we already have parent support and we've already have some students who are interested. So I feel like this is a missing piece of the puzzle for who our school is and who our community is. And so they've already started it. Right now, I'll let you know, it's Lindy Sinclair, Jamie Walterscheid, and Sarah Youngblood Ochoa. There's a fourth parent who's considering it. So for sure, we already have parents. I'm happy to help with it as an LSC member, unless somebody else would like to help with it or take that on. I just think it's a really valuable one, and really want to make this one happen. So they're already working on like a mission statement and plans. They're very excited. So it would be great to see this approved by the LSC so that we can start doing the good work. Does anyone have any questions? Cynthia Turner.
Cynthia?
Can you just run through some of the goals that you've discussed, like what kinds of things you'd like the community to do and how that would look in school?
Yeah, right. I have my notes here. Talking about making a safe and welcoming space. How are we, what is our signage? What is our visual representation? How are we celebrating? How are we doing? Like I started to bring up earlier, our forums will break everything down into girls versus boys. How are staff addressing our staff? How are we addressing our non-binary and transgender students? There's just a lot of work to be done. And I think that this is something for students. Many schools have a gay straight alliance where the kids are involved, and we can really start to visually represent who we are and who we want to be. So again, it's just getting started. They're working on their mission statement and really forming who it is. But I know we have a lot of motivated parents to make this happen. And I'm sure once the word gets out, we will have many more. So it would be great to have this as an official part of the LSC, again, for representation, because representation matters.
Thank you, Lori. Any other questions about this proposed committee? So having discussed the 5 committees, and I would please ask Cindy to include them as action items to be included in our next meeting to vote either to create them or not. Thank you. Now we'll go to our next point, discussion of establishing a shared drive for documentation. This is basically all the information, documents, presentations that we should get as LSC members prior to our meetings to establish one place where we all have access to it, so we can evaluate, not necessarily right before the meeting. It should be a considerable time in advance as possible, but one place that we all have access to, where all our documents related to the work we do as an LSC are there. Any discussion of this? Rob?
I'm going to yes and this. So yes to getting all these things here in one spot. My and I think this is like particularly important when we start to establish these committees, is like would love to set some timeline for like if we've got an action item and a set of stuff that's being associated with it, that we say 42 or 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever it is, like there is a norm that we establish of ensuring that that's there, because like my work style is, I want to review it, I want to understand it. And I think to the extent that like if there's a recommendation or an action item that we can have that in advance, it's going to make for sort of very productive meetings so that we can think about the right questions to ask, those sorts of things. So I think that would help us be great stewards of our time. So I don't know what the right time amount is, but would love for us to pair this with an expectation for when we can have materials.
Mr. Hall?
So this is a question maybe for Kashasha. I wasn't sure, do we have to vote on it? Like, this is not like a committee or something. Is this something we have to vote on, or can like a team of us just create a shared Google Drive folder and we just start putting stuff in it? Like, can we just decide tonight to start doing this? I don't know.
I don't know if Ms. Ford is still with
Yeah,
us.
I'm here.
Oh,
I just wanted
yeah.
to be recognized. So,
Yeah.
Chair, can I? Okay.
Ms. Ford.
Yeah, it's nothing you need to vote on. I think the chair just wanted to present this if you're going to discuss it. So you have this shared understanding that this is how you want to move forward, but this is not anything you need to vote on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kashasha.
Yeah. Sarah?
I'm a definite support of a shared drive to be established, and I love norms, even norms that we would carry over into our committee work as well. And in addition to that, also thinking about access, as with any shared document, just making sure that individuals have access. I know this has been an issue for teachers, being able to access CPS accounts or non-CPS Google Drive accounts and vice versa. If a teacher created the account, then families might have troubles accessing the files and the documents. So just want to put that out there. How do we, think about the access issues? And then also lastly, just about continuity, making sure that, that this information is, we don't have issues with being able to act, maybe it's an access issue, but we don't have issues if there's a change, a regime shift or change, that information is still available because it's important. It provides historical context.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Lori?
Along those lines, like what you're saying, I found out in doing some research, a lot of LSCs are able to have a cps.edu email address. Right now we've created, and when there was a regime change, we had to, ours are Gmail accounts, like it's LSC, Gmail, whatever. We are able to get cps.edu. Also, I found out that LSC members at some schools have cps.edu email addresses, which keeps all of our FOIA, all of our LSC information on a cps.edu. It also makes it possible because when we get May to join us, there are problems because middle school kids, they can't use their CPS email addresses to address non-CPS. So if we were to look into that through CPS, we could do our LSC as a cps.edu. We could all have individual cps.edu emails, which would give us safety, it would continuity, and it would have all of those things available. So that might be something we want to look into.
Thank you, Lori. I will reach out to our specialist and Ms. Ford about this to see how we can work this out. We've already talked with them about the situation with our student rep when she's official, but I will follow up on those things that you are mentioning with Mrs. Ty and Ms. Ford. Thank you. So now we're going to move to our public participation.
Thank you. That is me. So moving into this, I'll sort of go into this statement, but I want to say, like, in terms of the process, we'll go sort of order. We've got 2 different signups here, so we'll do sort of the first 5, and then anyone after that. Great. Nick crushing it for me to make this easy. So we'll sort of go in order of what I've got listed here, and then sort of acknowledge at sort of the end of this in terms of those responses. So members of the public are welcome to make comments and ask questions, but they must sign in to participate. The public is called upon to speak in the order they sign in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on the comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly and, if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a future date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions, when necessary, more time may be needed to adequately address a particular concern. So in terms of the order here, we'll go with exactly what Mr. Hall has got listed. So first up is Charlotte Sanders.
Hello, everyone. I'm chiming in as a community person, a grandmother and a mother, and a grandmother of a former student at Harriet Tubman. I want to speak in regards to Principal Gibson. I've known her for a number of years, and with working with her, I am retired, but working with her throughout 14 years, I have learned how dedicated she is to ensuring that every child is given the opportunity to learn at their level, and also to ensure that they can reach beyond what is expected of them. She is dedicated to her job. Being a mother, I see her countless hours put in, and it's rewarding to know that she is that dedicated to ensure that every child at Harriet Tubman is given the perspective of a better future for learning. I also want to say that in regards to some of the things that may have been happening around in the school, one of my friends was telling me about, the racial problem that Harriet Tubman has. I don't know if you guys have heard it. I don't know if you guys have discussed it, but I think that that is some of the things that the LSC should be concerned about when it comes to other ethnic groups within the building, saying how they're not listened to, people don't regard them, they don't know what to do. I see that you guys are very dedicated to your job as becoming a new LSC, and I'm grateful for that. But there are some things that is beyond your pool, or if people haven't reached out to you, we need to figure out why is people asking me a question like that and not asking you guys a question like that. So we need some steps in place to follow up, to find out what's going on. I love that you guys come up. This is like one of the only schools I've seen that had this much activity with committees. So congratulations. But the work still has to be done within the building and in the community to make everyone feel that they're valued. I know I looked at the last LSC, and they were talking about, the number of students that had left. Well, it's a big problem all over the city. I'm just going to say that. But we're working with that. I like the way that you guys came up with working with Principal Gibson as to how you can better bring in more people from the committee. So kudos to you. And I think that going forward, just, not just having a long meeting, but I want the other parents in the community to feel as if there's something that's needed to be addressed, they don't have to be afraid to bring it to the LSC. So congratulations, good luck. I support you, Principal Gibson. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'm here just because I'm retired, so I can do a little more. And that's what I plan to do. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Moving forward, Jennifer Sanders. See a Jennifer Sanders in the call, so I'm going to go right forward to the next one. If we need to come back to that, we certainly can. So Brandy Sanders is the next in line. also don't see them. So I'm going to move forward to the next. Alyssa Barks and Emily Schmidt.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Barks. I wanted to say thank you for having us here tonight. Just for time's sake, I'll just read sort of kind of on behalf of Emily Schmidt as well as the rest of the Audubon community. So I'm a school counselor at Audubon. We had the privilege of working with Ms. Gibson as she was a resident principal. So I want to kind of take this moment to read a letter on behalf of Audubon staff members. Dear Tubman LSC, we write this letter to share with you some of our experiences with Principal Gibson, who served the Audubon community as resident principal in the 2020-21 school year. During this time, she improved our school in many ways. At a time when our school needed it most, she was a fierce advocate for parents and students. She was especially passionate about and would speak out to support diverse learners, English language learners, and students of color. Her impact was felt throughout the Audubon community. She went to great lengths to build relationships with parents, advocated for families, and went to the district to help remove barriers from student learning. She helped them navigate the COVID pandemic, often initiating meetings with staff, then sitting in on those meetings to ensure both sides were heard, respected, and held accountable to any next steps. Ms. Gibson held herself to the same high standards. She was often the first one in the building and the last one to leave. She was instrumental in building out many of the diversity and equity practices that still guide Audubon today. She wore many leadership hats, stepping up when our principal was out, joining nearly every possible committee we had, and bringing a never stop learning attitude to everything that she did. She was also a key source of support for our staff. She wore red in solidarity with teachers on Friday. She advocated for and prioritized the mental health and wellness of her colleagues, routinely leading surveys and check-ins focused on emotional support. Ms. Gibson has worked in many different schools in a wide variety of positions. Thanks to that experience, she was able to quickly make authentic connections and understand the range of perspectives from our staff. Ms. Gibson would spend hours talking through issues and concerns with various members of the Audubon family and going out of her way to make personal connections with the staff. She always puts people and relationships first. We were thrilled for the opportunity she had as Tubman's principal. It seemed like a great fit. A school renaming itself and trying to reshape its identity, guided by a leader who had made a career of lifting every voice and unifying people from different perspectives. After reading an article in the Chicago Tribune, Audubon staff were both surprised and saddened to hear about the recent challenges at Tubman. It's hard to imagine Ms. Gibson presiding over a culture that's lacking in trust and accountability. Such an approach would be at odds with her values. The colleague we know cares deeply about her coworkers and school community, and she places a premium on fostering an environment of physical and psychological safety. It breaks our heart that as she was beginning her new leadership role and facing a devastating family health crisis, she was seemingly met with opposition rather than compassion. We feel for the Tubman community. We imagine it's an incredibly challenging time for all those involved, and that the division weighs on the staff, the kids, and the families. We hope that everyone is working with the best interests of all those parties in mind and striving for a positive resolution so that the school can move forward. We felt it was important to show our support and offer another perspective, our perspective on the type of leader Ms. Gibson can be. Sincerely, Audubon school staff members. I also sent that to the LSC, which I believe was shared. So a variety of staff members have signed that. So I just want to say thank you for allowing the time. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And the last is Lindsay McGowan.
Hi. Audubon School was lucky to have Miss Gibson be our resident principal for the 2020-2021 school year. And I had the pleasure of having Miss Gibson lead my grade level. Right from the beginning, I could tell she was kind and caring. for us as a staff, and for the students of our school. She was and still is a huge advocate for her students, especially those from underserved populations. During her time with us, that never wavered. The drive she showed has rubbed off on all of us, and we are all better teachers because of our time with her. Ms. Gibson not only showed support to her staff on a professional level, but also on a personal level. In February of 2001, I suffered a great loss. Ms. Gibson understood that grief doesn't end in a week. She showed me grace like I've never experienced from an administrator. And I'm almost 20 years with CPS, and I've had 5 different administrators. And that allowed me the gift of time. This gift allowed me to heal and start my journey on becoming a better teacher, a better mother, a better wife, and an all-around better human. I will forever be grateful for Principal Gibson and the level of compassion she showed me during that time. There are growing pains with any change in leadership. Staff leave, families leave, that's typical in Chicago. It takes time for a community to build trust with their administration. It takes time to learn and understand an administration's leadership style and management. I read an article about Tubman in the Tribune, and I began to wonder how much time Ms. Gibson was allowed to build and establish herself in this community. The article states that some members of the community became frustrated with Ms. Gibson in December. That's only 4 months, and within that time, Ms. Gibson started leadership at a new school, and a close family member was in an accident. I really hope Ms. Gibson was given the same grace and support she gave to me by her community in a time when she needed it. The rest of the article is very vague, and that's just it, it's vague. But what I do know is that the Kim Gibson that was described in that article is not the same Gibson I know and worked with. It was kind of like reading about a totally different person. Now, keep in mind that her time with me and the Audubon community ended in July of 2021. She started at Tubman in September of 2021, and it's just not possible for someone to have a complete personality change within 2 months' time. I truly do not understand how or why the situation got to be where it is. One thing I did hear, a rumor I heard, was that the Audubon staff had issues and disliked Ms. Gibson, which is farther from the truth. In fact, you heard from my colleague a letter that was written and signed by the staff supporting her.
Lindsay, if you could wrap it up. I'm sorry, we're right at time.
Yep, Ms. Gibson is qualified to lead Tubman. Some issues that community has about attendance, how students are handled, that's a CPS issue. And also, I am a bit shocked by the tone some people use toward Ms. Gibson at this meeting. She deserves better than that. Thank you for letting me have the time to talk to you and listen. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. And that wraps up our first section of public comment.
Thank you all. Our next point would be an official CPS update request from the LSC. This would be, as you know, the previous LSC voted on June 30th to submit a communication to the CEO. It was submitted on July 14th, and on August 29th, we received an official communication from CEO Martinez. It's October 12th, and we haven't received any additional information about the status of the process. As you know, we have multiple parents, staff, community members asking what is happening. We have given them all the information that can be shared that we have. So I want to, for us to discuss and vote about an official CPS update request from the LSC. It would be just asking about the status and update of the request, not specific details, not making a statement about it, just an update request. Sarah?
In that ask, could we please also add in the request as per statute for a meeting with the superintendent or CEO? Thank you.
Any further discussion? I will motion to prepare a statement of an official CPS update request on behalf of the current LSC to CPS.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Principal Gibson? Oh, I saw Principal Gibson.
I support getting an update as well because I like to put this behind me and move forward. But I'm looking on the agenda. It says official CPS update request. Was this supposed to have a vote on it as well?
Yeah, it was when we discussed it in our meeting of the discussion of the agenda. It was put up that way, and we discussed that it would be a vote because I can't send a communication to CPS on behalf of the LSC if I don't have the vote of the council.
Oh no, I support it. I want this to be settled. And the
Thank
truth
you.
is out.
But wait for the vote. Any further discussion? Okay, so we vote. Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hulbert? Ms. Hulbert? Lori?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Principal Gibson?
Yes.
And it's a yes from me too. I will be sending all of the council members an initial draft of this very specific request, adding what Sarah has suggested to include. You will get that email and we will have a certain amount of time to provide feedback. So the official draft will also be shared with all before it's sent out to CPS for the sake of transparency and clarity, so everyone knows what's going on. Thank you. We go now to our second public participation slot.
All right, I'll read the spiel again in just one moment and just sort of the process. I'm going to give you all 1 minute warning in the chat, and then I'll sort of call time to get things wrapped up once we hit that 3-minute mark, so I can be living up to my timekeeper expectations. So members of the public are welcome to make comments and ask questions, but they must sign in to participate. The public is called upon to speak in the order they sign in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on the comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly and, if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a future date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions when necessary, more time may be needed to address a particular concern. So first up here is Dana Carmen.
Hi. So much for having me, and thank you to our LSC for all the work that you're doing. I have to admit that I'm very surprised to hear from staff members from another school that have absolutely no relation to our school and are not in our school building on a regular basis, nor have any experience with our school whatsoever. I understand that there was some media that you referenced, and thank you for calling attention to the hard work that we did to change our name. I think Audubon might also be on that list. I'm sure you're aware of the history of your namesake, so look forward to seeing that work in the future as well. It's just the business of the school is really what we're here for, and moving forward for our students, and that's what we should be talking about most foremost. And so I just want to go back and call attention to the thing that I talk about the most on LSC meetings, which is literacy. It is Dyslexia Awareness Month. Thanks for the smiles, Mr. Hall. So we had some data pop up on the screen, and I just wanted to call attention to a couple things that are notable. First of all, we have no K through 2 reading data. And that is because we don't have any way to assess K through 2 at the moment. iReady is one such assessment that we would have, just like we have K through 2 math data, we would have K through 2 reading data. So hopefully we will pick up that assessment for next year. In looking at our scores from October 2021 and comparing them to October 2022, every single grade level went down. on their STAR 360, with the exception of fourth grade, which did go up 2 percentage points. I do think it's worth noting that several students in fourth grade who had IEPs, specifically around reading, have left the school. It's also worth noting that that third grade class that is at 73%, and way to go third grade, they spent a bulk of their primary years at home. And I think it's also worth noting that the 2021 scores that were higher, we were spending more time at home. And so I think that how we interpret this data is really in relation to that foundational literacy that we've been asking for in K through 2. You know, the committee with ODLSS is meeting this week. We're talking more about foundations and about other structured literacy programs. I know that the team is going to some workshops this week to discuss that, and I really look forward to hearing more about those results and hearing about implementation later this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next, Catherine Byrne.
Hello, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I have a two-part question, but they both kind of fall under the topic of enrollment, which has been a concern to me as I'm looking at the data. And so from the last meeting, I was just a participant, but I remember someone making a comment about like asking like families that have left, like, why have you left? And so I was wondering if the school takes part in the 5E survey, which I recognize Mr. Hall spoke to earlier in the meeting. So that answers that question. So my follow-up question to that would be, I don't recall as a parent ever having received that. And I do believe parents are a part of that. I believe it's administration, teachers, parents, and students who all partake in the 5E survey. So as a parent, you know, I've never received it. So I'm wondering, you know, how the school plans to look at that data, and if that's something you guys could use to evaluate areas of weakness and like where the school needs to improve to kind of keep those families from leaving in the future. And then also on enrollment, thinking about pre-K. I know pre-K can kind of be like a different program, but I know I'm in a situation where I have one child at Tubman, and because Tubman doesn't have preschool for the younger kids, I have my other child in a different school. And I know I'm not the only Tubman parent who's in this boat. And it can be a pain getting to 2 different schools. And I'm just wondering if maybe we're losing families because they have a younger child in a different school for preschool. And then, you know, they're like, oh, well, this school is doing this better. This school is doing that better. And maybe that's a way that we are losing families. And so I was curious if there's any plans for expanding preschool so that we can get more families in and keep, you know, families at Tubman, because I really enjoy Tubman. I know my son really enjoys going there. So I would like to see those enrollment numbers up, because when I see them, I do get a little disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward, Patty.
Hey, you know what? I think I saw in the chat that May, our LSC student rep, would like to speak, and I would like to speak as well, but I would love to give May a chance since it's getting kind of late. I don't know if she's still on the call and wants to speak. Is that allowed?
Patty, thank you. I reached out for guidance about that because she hadn't signed up, and technically she's not part of our council yet. So we have to like stick by the rules. But I encourage May to reach out and email whatever her comment was.
Okay, great. So I guess you could start my timer. Well, I know you guys can't disclose specifics regarding personnel. I was curious where our 2 main custodial staff have gone and why. Raphael and Hector have been with our community for many years, I think at least 5 from my recollection, and it's concerning to me as a parent hearing that staff are yet again continuing to leave. I have been in the building quite a bit over the last few weeks for Popcorn Friday, Fun Run, and a couple other things, and I did notice some things have slipped through the cracks, like the lack of products being stocked in the bathrooms, floors not being swept quickly, once or twice, garbages were overflowing. I know we have subs in place, and one in particular seems to be on top of things, but I wondered why our 2 regular custodians have left. And I know you probably can't answer this, but I'd like to know if they were fired, did they leave on their own, kind of what's going on there. On behalf of FOT and my role within that organization, it has made me feel increasingly uneasy knowing that none of our funds have been used in more than a year. Principal Gibson and I did discuss this briefly yesterday on the phone, but I would like to go on record saying that our board needs some definitive answers on how the money will be spent and when, specifically in writing. I know some funds are needed for the restorative justice coordinator, as well as some upcoming PD, which is fine. We just need to know the exact amount and when this is needed. And then lastly, I kind of just added this very, very quickly. Thank you to the Audubon staff and community members for sharing your experience in our LSC meeting. As principal, I feel like you should be able to lead with purpose and with the mindset of continuously improving, which Principal Gibson has said a lot. It never feels good to receive negative feedback, but it is a learning lesson to improve and to be held accountable. Not being able to move forward, it just makes it very difficult. The comments made by Principal Gibson's friends and former colleagues are nice to hear, but not really relevant, as her role is completely different here at Tubman. She's not a resident principal working with online learning. We're in person, and our staff and families' lived experiences matter and count for something too, and their experiences should not be invalidated because her former colleagues had a positive experience. There are very real issues that occurred, and CPS is taking it seriously. These are not made up charges, and it's sort of offensive, I believe, to the families who are dealing with these specific charges to imply otherwise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Laura. Laura Franz, by the way.
Hi guys, thanks for meeting. I'm just also here to say happy Dyslexia Awareness Month. I think we've been talking here for probably the last year and a half about it. And so this is the official month. And so I guess in regards to that, I think I echo a lot of what Dana said, and just knowing that K through 2 data would be, because that's the most crucial time for intervention would be K through 2. So having an idea of where those kiddos are is it's absolutely crucial to their future education. So yeah, I echo those comments. And then also too, when we're talking enrollment, I do think there's definitely alarm for the school. And I know I'm a community member now, but in terms of how it relates to literacy is that I talk to a lot of families, a lot of people. I'm on that committee, the CPS Dyslexia Committee. Families are looking for schools that provide foundational services for their kiddos. You guys got your new math curriculum that looks great. With the PD coming, hopefully you'll be able to implement that and get those numbers up. And if we can get this foundational structured literacy program going with rich vocabulary, background knowledge, just both accelerated, and the kiddos that have, every kid benefits from learning those foundational skills, both reading and in writing. Sometimes you might even have a kiddo that's accelerating in reading, but how's their writing going? And so you can really promote that. Families are looking for that. So I think in terms of enrollment and keeping families there, look, Hawthorne's just right down the road, and we were 90 something on the wait list, and we think we moved 2 spots. And they do foundations, which you guys have in your closet. And now I know some of the teachers are using that, but in terms of taking a look at what they're doing and how they're getting families to line up and the wait list isn't moving and filling up those seats. I just really think this is an opportunity for Tubman to help maintain, not only promote and get new kiddos in the seats, but to keep the ones that are there. And so I just look forward to hearing more about that. And I hope you guys, I applaud you all for doing your hard work. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Molly Conway.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, First, I wanted to start off my call today by thanking Ileana and the FOT board for the awesome churros and chocolate this morning. I'm sorry that Mother Nature didn't cooperate, but was very happy to be able to gather in the gym in celebration for the culmination of the Hispanic Heritage Month. Given this timing and the importance of Spanish language to many in our Tubman community, including my family, I wanted to take the time to express the desire to have Spanish as a part of our Tubman curriculum again in the future. Tubman currently utilizes 2 full-year specials time slots to teach our students both Arabic and Japanese, which equates to 1 or possibly 2 30-minute sessions per week. Arabic is usually considered one of the most difficult languages to learn by linguists, topped only by a few languages like Japanese in terms of difficulty. I'm asking that our LSC and school conduct a strategic review of our foreign language offerings to better understand if the time dedicated to each of these languages is meeting the needs of our students and school community. I ask that we collect input from our students as well as caregiver community via a foreign language survey or as part of another survey, but specifically asking about foreign language. In addition, I am also very concerned about declining enrollment. And I also ask that we survey prospective families to better understand the role of foreign language and how that is involved in family decisions as to attend or not attend Tubman. In addition, and thank you so much, Dana and Laura, for being the consistent dyslexia to educate all of us. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. It is also ADHD Awareness Month. So I wanted to just share our experience as a family with ADHD. At the beginning of 3rd grade, my twin daughters returned to school for their first time since the pandemic started in their 1st grade year. They were given the STAR 360 assessment, and one daughter was reading at just below appropriate grade level, and the other was at reading 2 grade levels below where she should be. I immediately recognized that this went beyond any particular at-home learning deficiency. So we took our daughter to get tested, and she was diagnosed with ADHD as well as dyslexia. I will admit I wasn't very well educated in understanding either diagnosis. For the sake of others, I would like to share a bit about what I have learned so that many others can be educated as well. My prior bias around ADHD was that it was predominantly in boys, and then it caused hyperactivity, which was often seen as disruptive in classrooms. What I am learning is that girls are more likely than their peers to develop inattentive ADHD. And when girls develop this combination ADHD, they usually do not have hyperactive symptoms. ADHD in girls, we cannot rely.
We're right at time. If you could wrap it
Okay.
up. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Yes, no worries. I will follow up with more of this. Just in essence, girls present ADHD very differently, and it does affect the way that they're able to learn. And I just want to make that a note for our school to continue to be aware of so that we can also serve the needs of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. And last public comment we have for today, Michael.
Yeah, thanks so much. Very quickly, I just want to echo some of the comments that were being made about enrollment. I think we're working very hard on changing that with the help of a lot of different people in the community. And I do think, like some other people were saying, if Hawthorne can be full, we can be full. They're right down the street. There's really no reason why we can't be the same stellar reputation, stellar school that they seem to have in the community. So I look forward to continuing to work on that and eliminating that issue, hopefully. My question was about the volunteer requirement for parents to be in the building for Halloween. I did get some feedback from parents that their applications are not getting approved and they're not clear on why it's even necessary. Since they're the parents of their kids, why do they have to go through this approval process to be near their kids? So I was hoping that maybe a communication could be sent out to clarify that, or communication with appropriate staff members to help clear applications. Thank you.
Thank you. And that closes the last public participation comment that we have.
Thank you all for participating. Our next point is action items and next steps. Cindy, can you recap what we've, Principal Gibson? I'm sorry, you want to address one? Sorry, Principal Gibson.
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone who participated today in public participation, especially my Audubon family. Thank you for standing tall, standing proud. I do not give up easily or scared. We will continue to stand strong and fight for justice and what's right. And thank you to all of our other public participants who brought many different views. And we will take that into consideration and take that feedback to always move toward continuous improvement as we reflect on everything that was said tonight. And we thank each of you for your participation.
Thank you, Principal Gibson.
All
Cindy.
right. Yes, ready for action items. For wanting data from the 5 Essential Survey for our next meeting, please. We're looking for some more comparative data for performance across all grade levels with our iReady and Star 360. We need to have the protocols set for class fees and school fees, how we're handling that at the school, please. Action items will be to put to a vote all possible creation of new committees. And I think that's all I have. Can you think of anything else that I missed? Lori, we're going to talk about forms. Yep, we're going to look at those forms at the next meeting.
Sarah?
I just wanted to create space and acknowledge public participation members as well too, and seeing if we can create some follow-up work or communication efforts with the committee work as it relates to issues that were raised, as looking at the Spanish in the curriculum, highlighting diverse learners and their needs, etc. So I just wanted to create opportunities for follow-up within the committee work there as well, and see if we can also create opportunities for follow-up on the next LSC meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Hall?
Just that Principal Gibson was going to check up on where the Cubs money is.
And I would also like to add, Cindy, what Michael brought us, if there could be a communication from administration about the volunteer and all the process, just for it to be clear for all the families. That is something that maybe, Michael, you can reach out to Principal Gibson and just work on it, because that's something that's going to happen in 2 weeks. So maybe we should put it as an action item, but we can get like feedback and results before that, please. Anything else? Oh, Michael.
Then there was also talking about the timeline for if we created the CIWP committee, how that would compare against the writing committee for the CIWP.
Yeah, Ms. Holbert.
A couple of things. Sorry if I missed this. The piece about data and how we were going to dig deeper on that and compare it to our peers in the district. That was the first time that I saw that data as a staff member, so would like to dig into that more, I assume, as a staff, and then, come back to the LSC with some more information. And then the second point was, as it relates to the budget, I know that Patty said she was a little taken back by the fact that some of that FOT money from the past was still sitting there. And I know that for this fund run, we just raised a ton of money, particularly with our enrollment down, which is really exciting, and really proud that our families that are still here are raising so much money for our school. And I felt like when we were promoting it, it was really vague what it's being used for. Nearly $50,000 for technology needs. There was some et cetera, it felt like in there. So I'd just be curious to know more how we are going to use the fund run money specifically moving forward, if that could be an update. Thanks.
Again, if any of these action items are resolved or you get the information before the meeting, it would be great to have it so we can report the entire community, not only us, our entire community about the results or the information that we are asking. So feel free to reach out to Principal Gibson about all of this, but they will remain as action items to be reported on our next agenda. Anything else?
Sorry, just
Lori?
just updating the budget to take off Agassi off everything. Least amount of times we can ever see that name again would be great.
Thank you, Lori. So having determined our action items and next steps, our next regular virtual meeting date is set for December 7th, 2022. I did want to ask, I don't know if we still have our LSC relations people here, if there has been any update or change to the emergency declaration regarding virtual meetings. If they're not here, I will reach out to them to see, because Mrs. Ty, please, or Ms. Ford, thank you.
Yes, we haven't. This is Carolina Estay, and we haven't had, we receive the update monthly. So we will know by December if it has been renewed or not. But when that is not renewed, we are going to communicate this to all the consuls so they can start resuming meeting in person. I don't know if
the updates come every 30 days, so the next one should come around the 24th, 25th of the month. So if there's any changes that says we need to go back to in person, we will communicate that out within 24 hours of us getting the information from the governor's office.
Thank you. And I will relay that information to everyone so we can determine how we're going to move forward. Thank you. Thank you for all who came to our meeting. Thank you for all our parents and community and caregivers. Thank you for all the public and community members that were here with us today until now. All those that expressed concerns, comments, and everything. Having nothing further to discuss, I motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Holbert?
Yes. Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Principal Gibson?
Yes.
And it's a yes for me. So the meeting is adjourned at 8:35 p.m. Thank you all. Have a great night.